He's the driver that didn't have a wealthy background. His father doubted his abilities, and he even lost his Formula One team. His determination, smooth driving style, and consistency earned him a world championship while nobody believed in it. This legend is Jenson Button. But to understand how Jenson became a Formula One world champion, we have to go back to 1980. Jenson Alexander Lyons Button was the fourth child of Simone Lyons and former rallycross driver John Button. The family wasn't wealthy. Even when his dad was well known, it was an ordinary middle-class family that sometimes struggled to bring enough money to the table. Young Button enjoyed racing his BMX bike and started watching Formula One around the age of 5, idolizing Alain Prost for being calm and calculated, something that helped him later in his career. By the age of 8, the young Brit received a go-kart, an impulsive buy from his father at a motor show. His first test wasn't a normal one. It was freezing cold and wet on a winter's day. Button had to go around and around, learning racing lines, how he had to brake, and getting car control. His dad stood at corners and pointed where he should brake. All of this on slick tires on a wet track. He started competing locally and won his first title at the age of 9 in 1989. John noticed his son was competitive and he moved up to real racing. He won the British Cadet in 1990 and totally dominated the 1991 season. He won all 34 races of that season. Besides that, he won the British Open Kart Championship too. He told his father he wanted to become a Formula One driver. He kept competing and winning, champion in 92, 93, and a transition to international karting in 1994 with multiple race wins. He became the youngest runner-up in the Formula A World Championship, all while being 15 years old. 1996 was a lost season as he had multiple accidents. In 1997, he crawled back and won the European Series of the Formula One of karting. This all didn't come easy. His father struggled to fund racing weekends, made multiple sacrifices, and it even went so far that his dad said he didn't think his son had the extra bit to progress further. That comment hurt Jenson Button and fueled him to prove him wrong. Coming off a successful karting career, it was time for the real work. Single-seater racing was the target. He was signed to the same businessman, David Robertson, who would bring Kimi Räikkönen to Formula One a few years later. His single-seater career was something that would progress very quickly. Button speedran it. He moved into British Formula Ford and won the championship with 9 victories. The Formula Ford Festival at Brands Hatch was also his trophy. These performances won him the prestigious McLaren Autosport BRDC Young Driver Award. This included a test with a McLaren Formula One car. He moved up to the British Formula 3 International Series in 1999. While his managers tried everything to give a competitive car, it didn't happen. Jenson Button wasn't a sponsored driver or part of an academy. He still tested a Renault-powered car and impressed the team owner. His Formula 3 season was a fact, but it was a season in a slightly underpowered Renault Dallara F399. He battled more experienced drivers in lesser machinery. He still won 3 times at Thruxton, Pembrey and Silverstone. Rookie of the Year and 3rd overall wasn't bad. A 5th position at the Marlboro Masters, 2nd at Macau, and 2nd in the F3 Korea Super Prix marked a somewhat underwhelming Formula 3 season. But somehow, Jenson Button was hot property. Such hot property that he not only tested for McLaren, but also for Prost and Williams. Yes, 3 Formula One teams wanted to know more about him. Button wanted to transition to F3000 as it was a step up, the step before Formula One. He did 2 tests in late December 1999, but didn't like the cars. It forced him to drive more aggressively. The cars felt heavy and difficult to manage. It didn't suit his smooth driving style, something he developed after watching Alain Prost. Nevertheless, Button impressed. He was 6th fastest in a group test after his first impression with an F3000 car. However, he decided not to take the opportunity and chase his Formula One dream with the McLaren test he won the previous year. He did the test and impressed team owner Ron Dennis. It was that smooth and composed driving that stood out. He got offered a reserve driver seat. Prost attended the test and wanted him in his car. He did another test, and it didn't take him very long to go quicker than Prost's current driver, Jean Alesi. A mechanic saw a car flying by and didn't believe it. He was a natural. His dad thought the stopwatch was broken. Prost offered him an F3000 seat, a test driver seat, and an opportunity to race full-time the next season. Not long afterwards, Frank Williams called. He wondered how much fuel was on board. When he heard the answer, he reacted with an unbelievable opportunity. He wanted to test their car, and an F1 racing seat was on the line. With 2 offers ready, he went up for a third one, a shootout between him and an experienced Formula 3 and Williams test driver. The results were close. The engineers chose his opponent, but it was Frank Williams that wanted Button. Jenson Button just became a Formula 1 driver, Britain's youngest ever at that time. His dream became reality, something even his dad didn't see coming. They are supposed to have faith in their children, but John didn't. They always told him he had an unusual driving style. It was time for his debut. The just 20-year-old Jenson Button was about to drive the Australian Grand Prix, with a 21st place on the grid and being over a second slower than Ralf Schumacher. Questions were raised. He crawled back in the following Grand Prix. In Brazil, he qualified 9th and scored his first ever Formula 1 point with a 6th position. He proved he could drive, and the season unfolded with another points finish in his home Grand Prix at Silverstone. He went on and achieved points 4 more times. His rookie season was marked by retirements. With 11 retirements out of 17 races, he didn't see the finish a lot, but he still had 12 points for the 6 he did finish, which was good for a rookie. But not good enough. As a rookie, you will also be inconsistent, make mistakes, and be less experienced. Combine this with a little dip in his form, and Williams' plan to get their former test driver, Juan Pablo Montoya, back to Formula 1, and you get replaced. Montoya won the kart championship as a rookie, won the Indianapolis 500, and got bored out of his racing contract. Jenson got loaned out to Benetton, but that was a disaster. They said he changed teams for money, not his career. He moved to Monaco, bought a yellow Ferrari, and was a frequent guest of the nightlife. He got labeled as a playboy. A car without power steering and less horsepower was his equipment. Only 2 points and a 17th place were the end of his 2001 Formula 1 season. For the 2002 season, Benetton got rebranded to Renault. Jenson tried to improve his public image, changed his social life, trained more, and switched managers. He worked a lot with his engineering team because he still lacked the skill to set up a car. His car was more competitive, and he finished in the points in 7 of the 17 races. He missed out on a podium at Malaysia as his suspension broke. He beat his more experienced teammate, Jarno Trulli, regularly, and things were looking better. His race pace and racecraft were finally highlighted. But it happened again. He got replaced by Fernando Alonso. Their reserve driver, who was signed to them, had a lot of potential and wasn't a lone driver that couldn't give them stability. It was a contractual issue and a financial decision, something that plagued him before. Briatore added fuel to the fire by calling him a lazy playboy. Instead of driving, he was buying a new apartment or a new yacht. That's why he didn't finish in the points at Monaco. Jenson's career was stalling. A once-hyped rookie got replaced twice in 3 years. A new start came with the British-American racing team, also known as Bar Honda. The season started with drama. His teammate, Jacques Villeneuve, created a pit stop catastrophe and Button called him out. He thought it was deliberate. The Canadian's reaction? He should be in a boy band. The season progressed and he finished multiple times in the points, came close to a podium in the A1 ring, and he was the reason Bar looked quite competitive. He even led a Grand Prix until he was forced to stop. It was a remarkable comeback after several moments that could have killed his motivation and love for the sport. But he fought back and beat a former world champion. With 17 points and 9th place in the championship, he retained his seat and became the team leader as Villeneuve got dropped. Jenson smelled the podium a few times. He'd been really close before, and coming off a strong 2003 season, the hope of achieving a podium result only grew bigger. He was the most experienced driver of the team, and that comes with more pressure. That breakthrough podium came early in the season. His Bar 006 was competitive in the winter tests. At the second race of the season, he took a 3rd place. It was the Malaysian Grand Prix, where he could have had a podium before he finally achieved it. He followed it up with another podium 2 weeks later at Bahrain. But that wasn't the only breakthrough performance of that year. The fourth race of the season gave him and his team's first pole position in Formula 1. Defeating Michael Schumacher in Imola was a fantastic result. He didn't win the race as he got overtaken during the pit stops, but still, he achieved something great. Mid-season, he went into a contract feud with his team. He'd chosen to leave the team and return to Williams. Barr wasn't a works team, and his team felt he had a better opportunity at his former team. The Honda engine's contract felt not definitive, and Button's manager argued they could leave. After the season, the F1 Contract Regulation Board ruled in favor of Barr, and Button had to stay. He separated from his manager. In the meantime, Button kept performing. He went on to get 7 more podiums, did comeback drives from the back of the grid, and finished the season with 85 points and 3rd position. He finally delivered on his promise and lost the playboy image a bit. Everyone was expecting a lot from 2005, even after the contract feud. Not only Button, but fans and the team too. Coming off such a strong season, and the car that is an evolution from the predecessor, it had all the ingredients to be an all-timer. It wasn't. Mechanical unreliability, a cheating scandal, and only 2 podiums marked a disappointing season. At the San Marino Grand Prix, he delivered an impressive performance, but later, it came to light that the car was 4.99 kilograms underweight, which happens often. However, they also discovered a secondary fuel tank that reduced the car's weight when it was drained. The Brit got disqualified, the team was banned from the next 2 races, and fined a whopping €1 million. He ended the season once again in 9th place with 37 points. Oh, and that contract he signed with Williams, it followed him. This time, it was Williams that told him he had to drive for them. He didn't want to, and after multiple talks, he had to do some sponsorship work. They released Button for £18 million in compensation. From 2006 onwards, Barr became an official Honda team. Ultimate resources, optimism, and a lot of hope made Jenson Button long for his first race win. He came close a few times, but he kept being called a nearly man. Always close, never close enough. Paired with the very experienced Rubens Barrichello and equal treatment, they started testing very well. Points finishes in 5 of the first 11 races. A 3rd place and a pole position in Australia made it a decent start. That race win he was longing for came at the Hungarian Grand Prix. A rainy race, starting from 14th position, but finally achieving his first race win after 113 starts. He went on with multiple top 5 finishes and scored more points in the last 6 races than any other driver. A 6th position in the championship, 56 points, and beating his experienced teammate were the result of a strong season. 2007 was a season to forget. Missing preseason testing due to a rib injury and a car that was an absolute boat. It was a midfield car at best, and with only 6 points in a whole season, it was his worst season since Jenson Button's F1 career started in 2000. The highlight was a 5th position in China, another rain-affected race. And you'd think it couldn't get any worse, right? Well, it can. In 2008, he only scored 3 points, even with new leadership under Ross Brawn, the legend that helped Ferrari regain glory. The car wasn't good, and to make it even worse, his teammate achieved a podium. However, for the 2009 season, everything would change. At the end of 2008, he got informed Honda would leave the sport. The financial crisis was the cause of that. Jenson Button was without a seat if the team wasn't bought by anyone. Button's career was on the verge of ending abruptly. He had the opportunity to leave for Toro Rosso, but that wasn't a winning car. There were no other seats available, and preparations for the 2009 season were about to start. 2 weeks later, the news broke that Ross Brawn bought the Honda F1 team for a laughable £1. Honda supported the operation with £100 million for staff and operational costs. A Mercedes engine deal was signed, and the team was rebranded to Brawn GP. Jenson Button signed for an enormous pay cut, and Barrichello stayed too. What happened next is one of Formula One's greatest stories. In preseason testing, the car was quick. The basis of the car came from Honda, which had poured millions into it. They found a loophole in the 2009 regulations and went all in. The double diffuser was born and created an advantage. 6 of the first 7 races were won by Jenson, a dream debut for Brawn GP and for him in Australia, followed by a win in Malaysia, 3rd position in China, before bouncing back and winning in Bahrain, Spain, Monaco, and Turkey. He was leading the championship with 26 points over his teammate. But then, mid-season arrived. The team didn't improve the car, and their main competitors did. It was Red Bull Racing that became very quick together with Sebastian Vettel. It was time for damage control, and as clean as Button can drive, he did that. 8 races with only 1 podium, a retirement, and his teammate and Vettel, scary close, made the dream almost burst. At the Brazilian Grand Prix, Jenson had a disastrous qualifying with a 14th position. Vettel went even worse with a 16th position, but Barrichello took pole. He had to finish within 4 points to clinch the World Championship, and so he did. He finished ahead of both his competitors. Jenson Button became the world champion at 28 years of age after losing his seat multiple times, with the final one almost fatal for his career. It was an achievement nobody saw coming, a new team that missed development time because they went bankrupt, but they did it. An underdog story that still gives me shivers. As you can imagine, Brawn GP wanted to re-sign Jenson for the 2010 season. The team was sold to Mercedes, and he would be paired with Nico Rosberg. He wanted car development commitment to challenge for the title again. The offer wasn't appealing, and he left. For the following 3 years of his career, he would drive for McLaren. They couldn't believe he would leave Brawn GP, as they just won a championship. McLaren was competitive at the end of 2009, and partnering with Lewis Hamilton was appealing for him. Everybody expected him to lose against Hamilton by a big margin, but it was Jenson who finished ahead of Lewis in that 2010 season. They weren't best friends, as they were 2 British world champions in a British team. He kept performing and was close enough, to be honest. He ended the season as 5th in the standings behind his teammate. In 2011, he had his best season at McLaren, and what stood out was that amazing race in Canada that he won, the longest Grand Prix ever. Full of chaos, he showed his consistency and capitalized on every opportunity. All the following years, he kept winning and performing very well. As said before, he was a reliable driver with consistency. He wasn't the quickest, but he compensated that with his other abilities. From 2013 onwards, he had multiple teammates and a declining McLaren. It was their literal downfall to places they'd never seen before. The team became a backmarker, and scoring points was almost an undoable task. In 2016, he announced a sabbatical year. He wouldn't drive in the 2017 season until Fernando Alonso decided to do the Indy 500, and he drove a one-off race at Monaco. He did a couple of simulator runs before it and stepped in the car. The result wasn't great, and in the end, it was his last F1 race ever. Jenson Button retired because he was done with it. He didn't have fun anymore, and he wanted to do other stuff. The uncompetitive machinery led to this decision. He'd done that before, and he didn't want to do it again. He had a family now, and he also wanted to focus more on that. But a full racing retirement? That wasn't in the books until 2025. He raced in Super GT and became a champion, did 7 years of the World Endurance Championship, and became a commentator. He's now officially retired after a racing career from the age of 8, as a young kid in karts to an F1 champion, and multiple other series at the age of 45. That's 38 years of racing, an absolutely enormous career. Jenson Button isn't remembered a lot, but he is a special driver with a driving style that was very unique. He never smashed his car around the racetrack. Button was a driver that took care of his car with his smooth style. He went into corners so smoothly, which I didn't really see that often. He's one of the F1 drivers that I've always liked. Just a good driver that was consistent, always showed up, and especially on a wet racetrack. Jenson Button is a very likable character. He was at the right place at the right time and instantly became a world champion. You have to respect that, and I always will. But this isn't the only story that I want you to know about. What about the F1 driver that almost died, came back, and won 2 world championships against Michael Schumacher?